The UPSC examination, as you know, is considered to be the world's toughest examination or one of the world's toughest examination. Now, this is a central motif in the entire preparation, and most people recognize and associate the UPSC examination with that level of difficulty. I want to investigate today with you whether that tagline is justified or not, and I want to tell you what you can do to tame that difficulty level and to absolutely dominate your competition and to clear the examination in your first attempt, right? We're going to do that stepwise. And the first step in that endeavor is going to be how to learn how to actually win. And to learn how to win, you should look at the professionals who are very, very good at winning. And the most competitive people in the world, one of the most competitive people in the world are race car drivers. By definition of their profession, it's highly competitive, microsecond, microfraction based competition. So, how does a race car driver ensure his victory? How does he go into that battle? Does he just get into his car and start to drive? Does he just focus on beating his competition? He doesn't. He takes time and a lot of preparation. But the first thing he does is that he understands the racetrack. He understands what the curves are. He memorizes the entire track. He tries to understand where the tricky turns are going to be. He understands where, in which areas of that track, he can gain an advantage. He understands where he must slow down, and then he strategizes accordingly. And so it is this fraction of a second of an advantage that he ends up getting results in victory or loss or disasters, right? So we want to take a page from that, and the UPSC examination is a lot like that. So before you dive into book lists and NCRTs and the syllabus itself, you need to take a step back and you need to understand the terrain that you're dealing with. You need to understand the entire course, the obstacle course that you have to put yourself through. And you have to understand where is it that you're going to face the biggest challenges, which are going to be unique to you. And where is it that you can actually take it an advantage? Where is it that you can push the pedal and actually pump out that point, that score that is going to get you across the cutoff and help you dominate the competition, right? And this is what we're going to do in this video. The first thing to do is to understand the obstacle course. Those three swinging pendulum traps, they are death traps. Imagine one of them is prelims, the other one is the mains, and the last one is the interview. And like the athlete running through them, you will have to navigate what they are. And all of them have a different set of challenges, right? So prelims is a particularly objective-based examination. I don't want to get into the exam pattern and eligibility criteria because all of that stuff you can Google, and I'll leave a link for you here to go over the details of those things. And I don't want to get into that. I want to focus on things which are not usually spoken about and the things which will actually really help you. So this prelims, mains, and interview, they all have different levels of difficulty and different reasons for that difficulty. So you have to understand this, not just the syllabus, but the examination itself, the mindset of the examination, and only then will you be able to wade through and find the fastest way possible. Why is it considered to be so difficult? First reason, the duration of it. It's going to be at least a year and a half when you start and the time by the time you finish. So it's going to take a long while, and that is a very long while for an examination to go on. You already know this fact, but you might not have understood or appreciated why it has been kept in that format. After all, the UPSC, in all its powers, could easily dispose of the examination in a single day and give you the result like they do in GMAT examinations, but they don't do that. They have a very long drawn process, a very taxing process, a very difficult process. Why? Because they're testing for resilience. They're testing for your capacity of grit, of your capacity to stick to a goal. There's another thing that they're testing for by making it a long drawn process. They're testing for your commitment levels and the ability to stick to a long term goal, right? Now, that is a rare ability. Not everybody possesses that. You have to remain dedicated to a goal without particular consequences for a very long period of time, in this case, 18 months. Now, this requires a special type of discipline and a special type of strategy, right? And I should tell you right now that all of it is possible. All of it is possible, but we first must appreciate what we're dealing with in order to be able to dominate it. So I'm doing that now. Second reason why it's so hard, why is it considered difficult, is because of the syllabus. Now, when I say the syllabus, I don't mean that it is only for very intelligent people. Trust me that it is not. Not necessarily a high level of intelligence is required, but a high level of discipline and motivation certainly is required. along with a bunch of other things. So take the analogy of you having to swim through an ocean, right? So there's an ocean, and you have to swim through that ocean, reach the other end. And imagine that that ocean is the UPSC syllabus. Now, it is like an ocean, and that metaphor fits quite well. And so when you swim through an ocean, you don't dive deep, right? You don't dive deep in order to investigate the depths. Just like you do not dive deep into the subjects of the UPSC in general studies and so on, and you don't want to become an expert in them. You don't want to specialize in them. You want to be able to wade through the obstacles, wade through the ocean to get to the other end, right? So the challenge is width. It is not the depth. It doesn't matter how deep the waters are. What matters is how fast and how well can you swim across that ocean, right? So there's one thing. This also implies that the UPSC is particularly testing for a generalist kind of mindset because they've given you a huge variety of subjects to get to know about. And this is very different from the type of study and academic effort that we put in schools and colleges, where we typically specialize in a subject or two, perhaps, right? And this is going to challenge you. The UPSC exam is going to challenge you to gain a certain level of proficiency in a variety of disciplines, including economics, history, geography, and so on, right? So it's an ocean, and your job is to get through that ocean and not dive deep into it like a scuba diver. The third reason why it's hard is because the type of knowledge that they're asking is not very clear cut and static. The examination itself is dynamic. The current affairs element of it makes it dynamic. It keeps changing, so you'll have to keep updating yourself. The other thing is that the type of questions that they ask in prelims and mains and in the interview are not academic theoretical questions. These are questions which require a working knowledge of the world. A working knowledge of the world is different from academic bookish knowledge, in the sense that in a working knowledge of the world, if you possess it, you understand how things are interrelated. You understand the economics of a particular policy decisions, and you understand how it would impact you. You understand how it would impact the common man. Take, for instance, cryptocurrency. Now, the UPSC is not concerned about you having technical knowledge about blockchain or cryptocurrency, but they are concerned with you understanding the implications of that technology on society, on governance, on you, and on common people, right? So there, that is a huge and critical difference, which also correlates to the element of curiosity. Now, the only reason that you'll be able to gather practical working knowledge of anything in the world is that you are very curious about it, is that you remain curious about what is happening in the world with a genuine interest. Ask yourself if you have working knowledge about anything. Say that I have a hobby in map making, so perhaps I have a hobby in motorcycles. If I have a hobby in those areas, then I probably have a decent amount of knowledge in those areas. I probably would understand what makes a motorcycle a good one and what makes it a bad one. I probably have some specifics about the mechanics of it. The reason I have this working knowledge of motorcycles is because I am genuinely interested in it. What you need to do for the UPSC examination is be genuinely interested in a variety of subjects, which is listed in the UPSC syllabus. Now, there are ways to inculcate curiosity, which I can tell you later, but for now, understand that curiosity is being particularly tested for, and the word curiosity appears in the UPSC syllabus not once, but at least 5 times. So that should give you a clue as to how important that aspect is. The fourth reason is that it is highly competitive. But what does competitiveness have to do with difficulty? I mean, it would appear to be obvious that competitiveness is equal to difficulty, but that's not necessarily the case. The thing which is being tested by making it so highly competitive is your control over anxiety. Because remember, this is not like a physical competition. This is not like a physical fight or a bout in a ring where you have opponents, where you can beat that opponent. The only opponent here which you can beat is yourself. So the race and the test and the competition is with yourself. The extent to which you can extend your own boundaries, the limits which can be extended, which you will have to push, is the competitive nature of the examination. And this is usually lost on people. Most people do not understand this, spend a year or maybe more, and then look back and try to look at the reasons why they didn't clear the examination, and they miss the main tagline of the entire thing. Another reason why the UPSC examination is particularly difficult or different, I should say, is because they are testing for a very complete type of mental skill set. Now, if I was going to be If I'm an engineer and I want to be a good engineer, then the skill that is required from me is that I should be left brain, I should be analytical, I should be rigorous, I should be precise. Okay, that would make me a good engineer, and I would require a similar set of skills in order to be a surgeon or a doctor. Now, I would require a very different type of skill if I was going to be a writer or a poet, right? Or a professional anchor, TV anchor. These are all very different things. And the UPSC seems to be asking and demanding a bunch of these things from you in a variety of different contexts. So in the prelims, you're doing a lot of convergent thinking, for instance. You're using and tapping into all the memory faculties that you have and trying to answer a particular question. In the mains examination, this is not the case, especially in the essay paper. You're given a topic, and in the mains examination, you have to do divergent thinking. So take that topic and tap into all the memory that you have to figure out ideas, right? And both of these things are tested quite extensively in the entire examination. But that's not all. They're testing for a bunch of other things as well. They're testing for your ability to write effectively and to have very good command over expression and language. This is particularly important and central to the entire examination because if you're going to be a good leader, if you are going to be a good leader, and it is a leadership role that you are vying for, that you want to get into, you need to be very good at communicating. It is absolutely essential in any good or higher level management role and leadership role. They're testing for that extensively, and that's the reason you have 7 or more examinations, I mean, and 27 hours worth of time will be invested in you writing the examination. So a lot of practice requires, it needs to be invested in that, and a lot of extensive work also is required. Now, another reason why it's so important and so different is because the things that the UPSC is testing for are the things that the government of India requires. And by government of India, I don't mean any political party, I mean any government, I mean the executive branch of the government, I mean the people who actually implement laws and policies. You want to be one of those people, right? So you need to understand what type of skills the government is requiring from people. And so it is a very particularly incisive and precise type of an investigation into the person. And the question that the UPSC is going to ask itself is, does this person understand the problem that the country faces? Does the person understand the challenges? Does the person have a vision? Does the person have a perspective on those things? That's very important. So given all of these reasons, what should you do, right? And it's easy to say that you should have a strategy, but what exactly is a strategy? What does it mean? How does that translate into an actionable point? It can be broken down into 3 very simple things. What I just told you was the first. You need to know your enemy. You need to know the monster. Look at what the UPSC syllabus is saying. It is saying exactly the thing which I just told you. It says the nature of questions in general studies paper, which is the bulk of the examination, is such that a well-educated person will be able to answer without any specialized study, right? The questions will be such as to test a candidate's general awareness of a variety of subjects which will have relevance for a career in civil services. The questions are likely to test the candidate's basic understanding of all relevant issues and ability to analyze and take a view on conflicting socioeconomic goals, objectives, and demands. The candidates must give relevant, meaningful, and succinct answers. Right there, they summarized everything I just told you. And I don't think people pay due respect and due regard to this particular instance because it is these skills that you require that are required to inculcate. It's not just a list of topics from history or geography or the NCRTs which you need to master. It is these mental skills that you need to inculcate, right? And then display. The second thing that you need to do to clear this examination, to dominate it, is SWOT yourself. Now, SWOT is essentially acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? You need to know what your strengths are. You need to know what your weaknesses are so that you can mend them, so that you can mold them, so that you can buffer against them. You need to know what the opportunities are so that you can gain that advantage, like the race car drivers do when they find a nice curve and they cut through and they overtake the competition. And you need to know what the threats are so you can eliminate them. The CSAT, for instance, if somebody is not accustomed to it, can be a threat, and you want it to be stopped, and you want it to stop being a threat. You need to do enough so that it remains a threat. You should not be eliminated from the race. That would be a threat. Based on all of these things, you need to develop a customized strategy. This customized strategy requires and should be based on your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly how to figure out what those things are. I have created a test for you, which I'm linking here. Go through it, follow these principles, and I will get back to you with the next steps.